Hello, everyone. I am Pamela Erika from Living Joyfully, and today I'm joined by my co-hosts Anna Brown and Erika Ellis. Hello to you both.
Hello.
Hello.
So, in this episode, we are going to be talking about the value of intentionally celebrating our child's interests, because there can definitely be more to that than meets the eye. But before we dive in, I would like to take a moment to invite you to join us in the Living Joyfully Network. There is just so much value in walking alongside others on our journey, particularly on more unconventional journeys like unschooling, right? Because we don't see a lot of it happening in our everyday life. And because while everyone's journey is unique, many of us face similar obstacles and challenges. And that is where the power of community shines in feeling seen and heard. In the network, you will learn from the experiences of other parents who are on similar journeys. You can draw inspiration from their aha moments. You can gain insight from the unique and creative ways that they navigate both their own and their family's needs every day. It's just so fun. Like, I know my kids are all adults. I still love going in there and seeing what people are doing because it's the energy, it's the creativity. It just opens things up for me every time I visit. So to learn more and join us, just follow the link in the show notes or go to livingjoyfullyshop.com and click on community in the top menu. We look forward to welcoming you. And Anna, would you like to get us started on celebrating interests?
I would. Thank you so much. Um, I love thinking about the ways to celebrate the people in our lives, especially our children. I have a favorite quote from our friend Ann Oman. Years ago, we made it into a bumper sticker, and so I'm going to read that to you. Today, I will connect with my children, bring joy into their lives, nurture and encourage what they love to do, and celebrate them for being exactly who they are. And celebrating our kids and what they're interested in is such a great place to start because we really can feel misunderstood and even judged if someone makes light or disregards something that we love. And we can feel so seen and supported when they show interest in it and in us. Because a big part of who we are is made up of the things that we love and the things that we do. So when someone criticizes something we love, it feels like they're criticizing us. The thought process is kind of, I love this thing. They're saying I shouldn't, or I shouldn't be doing it. Is there something wrong with me? And it starts to sow that seed of doubt and it disconnects us from our inner voice. And when the people in our lives celebrate our interests, it makes a difference in cultivating our inner voice and learning to trust ourselves. It's also just a great way to learn about our kids or our partners. As we lean into learning more about their interests, we see what draws them into it. So instead of, thinking, well, they just love video games, what kind of games? What is it about the games? Is it the art, the music, the story, the action, the excitement of it? Learning the lingo and what's going on helps us celebrate and have that deeper conversation with them. And really, that goes for all kinds of interests. I have this young friend who's into hobby horses. So, yes, this is an actual thing. There is a World Hobby Horsing Championship. It's in Europe. The hobby horses are these elaborate handmade, I mean, that in itself is art, beautiful kind of horse heads on a stick. The events involve people, riding these hobby horses over jumps and obstacles. Like it's so athletic. I'm like, who knew this? I did not. But I love learning about it and seeing the joy that it brings to her and really this whole community of people across the world that are into this thing that I didn't even know existed. And if someone, that's fun. Like it's fun, right? The art of it's beautiful, the athleticism's beautiful, the joy from the kids is beautiful. But sometimes if someone has an interest that maybe is a little bit harder for me to understand, I look at them because they're important to me, right? This is a person that I care about. And so I get excited about their excitement. I can join that fun energy of someone doing something that they love. That excitement is contagious if we just open ourselves to it, even just a tiny bit. Because I truly want people in my life to feel loved and celebrated. And it's such an easy gift to give. And I have just found it deepens those connections in such a beautiful, beautiful way.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. Yeah, I feel like, people's interests are, it's like so core to who they are as people. And so if we can see that and say, I see what you love and I appreciate that you love it, it feels so good. It feels like being seen, it feels like being understood. And I love that part that you talked about with the lingo, because that has been so huge for my relationships with my kids to be able to speak the same language that they speak about the things that they love. So it's things like learning about the characters, learning about the stories, being interested when they're sharing about the things that they love so much. And I see that when I am able to remember like the little details about the things that they've told me in the past, like how much that helps them feel connected to me and like I'm with them, that I support them. And so I just really do put a huge value in learning about their interests and celebrating their interests. And I remember I think it was a recent network call that we had where one parent shared that they had done, like played Minecraft along with their kids, which was kind of like challenging because it's hard to dive into Minecraft as a new Minecraft player, and especially if your kids are quite advanced and you're just kind of trying to figure it out. And so, a lot of these interests might not make a lot of sense to our brains. Maybe they're things that are like, I would never choose to spend time on this if it were up to me. But what it showed was that taking that little bit of time to be like, okay, I'm in here, show me what to do, really giving it a try was just such a connecting moment for them. And so I just love that. Even if it feels a little bit out of our comfort zones, even if we don't quite understand it, I think there's just so much value in making that time to try to learn that little bit more and show interest.
Yeah, and I think for me, when I think back to when the kids first came home from school, like I had that mindset of not so much judging the interests, but varying the value that I placed on
Mm,
them, right?
yeah.
It was, like video games were like at the lower end of something that yeah, you like that thing, that's great, you enjoy it. But I couldn't lean into celebrating it as much as something that looked
Mm.
more whatever, I can't even come up with a word for it now. Like it was more culturally valued. So, because, as we've talked about before, like are the values and the things that the way we are placing things in our life, in our context, like are those from outer voices or from inner voices? So that was a really helpful step, was just taking the time to recognize where I might be judging things. And when I first came home, I was still looking through the lens of like subjects, like is Minecraft math? Then I can tick off the math a box when they're playing Minecraft or, that kind of stuff. So it was really beautiful to be encouraged, not only to celebrate their interests, but as you were saying, not judging them at all. Like, this is something interesting to you, therefore it's interesting. Like, just full stop there. I don't need to justify it before I can celebrate it. I can just go right to celebrating it, right? And absolutely, you just learn so much about like who they are as a person, like what they're loving about it. Because in so many things, there are different aspects of it. And like maybe one side's challenging, maybe one side's not so fun, but the stuff that they are getting out of it makes it worth coming back to it again and again. So it's just so interesting and so fun after a few months, a few years to look back and see how their interests have kind of morphed and changed. And you can start to see the thread that kind of goes foundationally for, oh, there's that aspect also shows up in this interest and this interest where, they just may seem totally random looking back if we're just looking at like what the literal interest is. But when we have those conversations, we learn that language, we know the bits and pieces that are exciting them. Oh my gosh, we can really see what is foundationally them because we can see that bit attracting them to all sorts of different interests. So, yes, it's so fun.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because if we're just looking at the interest kind of at surface value, we are missing that it's building blocks to things,
Yeah.
right? And so, again, it may be that the art, that the music that's attracting into this particular video game, and maybe that morphs into, actually doing some physical art or some digital art or into making music or to understanding different things about. But we can really stuff that down if we're judging it. Like if it's coming with this judgmental lens, because the judgment's so surface level, right? It's really up here. It's not getting excited and understanding what's lighting them up about it. We really only see those things in looking back a very long time, really. So it's there's a trust piece, which I get, there's a trust piece, but I just think about how many adults I work with, adults I know in my family. I'm thinking of my brother and, and more extended family that really had these strong, passionate interests that were, didn't fit the mold of what people thought they should do. And so they pivoted from that and did the more conventional thing that they were supposed to do. And it's decades later where they're thinking, I hate this. Why am I doing this? Why do I have this job? And, that seems dramatic that it's coming from this, but it is though. Had someone seen them and seen how art was such an important part of their life and had really gotten excited and maybe brought more of that in, like what a different path that would have looked like. So I do feel like if we can shut off that part of our brain that's judging or thinking how does it look to the outside and just get curious. I mean, here we go again. I feel like we always talk about the same thing, but like just create space, just get curious. I think you'll see all these interests, how they weave together and how it's all a part of growth. And my friend Pat always says, like, you can take any interest and really see the whole world from it. And I think you even have an article, don't you, Pam? Like,
Yeah.
everything can come from like one thing. And that really opens us up, I think, as parents to recognize. So we'll link that too in the show notes because I think it's a really valuable paradigm shift that, yeah, it can be this really specific interest of hobby horsing that leads to, geography and horses and seamstress and this and that and art and all the things from this one, what would seem a very niche interest.
Yeah. I love that. It's like once you have that belief of, okay, we can learn anything through any interest that they have, then it makes it so that everything's valid. And I'm not going to be afraid to support any interest. And so I'm just imagining, like, how cool would it be if all parents could just be encouraging their kids in the thing that right now the kid is the most interested in? Like, how powerful that could be, because there's a reason why that particular interest is speaking to them so strongly right now. There's a reason why they keep bringing it up and keep wanting to do it. And it's because it's doing something for them. It's working with their brains and their personalities. And it's kind of reminding me of when we talk about like being true to yourself. And so if you get that chance to really listen to what you are interested in as a person, individual, unique person with your personality, like you learn so much more about yourself. And then everything that happens from that point is more aligned with who you are. And so if we give our children that chance, they can really dive deep into this thing that they love the most. Okay, now they're meeting other people who are most interested in the thing they love the most. They're making connections that work better for them. They're able to learn better because when you're learning something you love, it's like learning happens so easily and naturally than if we're trying to pull ourselves away to something that people think we should be doing.
Yeah.
And so I think if we can really just sink into all interests lead down a path that can be valuable for that individual person, then we could stop judging our kids and just like lean into supporting them to go down that path.
Yeah, I love that so much. It's beautiful. And I think that's the next like kind of step that I want to make sure that you both talked about it, but just to be really intentional about that, celebrating interest isn't just about going like, oh, yay, I'm so glad, it can be like, it can be so much more. It can be like, oh, so in the conversations, or if they're not much
Yeah.
of a chatter, it's like in just observing when they're watching that favorite show, doing that favorite activity, like which parts of it light them up more. Like when you really see them light up, what's going on in that moment. Like they're still communicating to you, even if they can't sit down and nail off for you, like,
Yeah.
this is my favorite part, and I kind of like this, but I really wish this wasn't like, maybe you have those conversations, but it's okay if you don't. But like finding those pieces that light them up and then getting creative, like, where might that also exist in other places? Like maybe it's really close, maybe it's something that might be quite different from that, but might give that same sense, or that same energy, or that same piece. And it can just be so fascinating if we share that without expectation or judgment, to see like if that connects. Do they even want to try it? How does that unfold? If they don't, like, yes or no, or maybe like we're learning every moment, right? And they are learning too, because they're like, oh, do I? No, I don't want to do that. Like they took a moment to consider that. So helping them explore their interest in interesting ways can be so helpful. Like that is the learning that is so fun to just see in action, because yes, even when they're super frustrated, they will come back to it if it's meaningful, right? If it's something that's really speaking to them. And just to see them putting those pieces together and they're like exploring the window. That's yes, passions are a window to the world.
Yeah.
Like, and that is how they're putting together their web of learning, the context around this thing that is really interesting to them, right? So, like, if it's a particular game, you can get more of exactly the same kind of game, but you can also get a game that also has this aspect of it, and try that out. And being there with them, and just like, oh, it's so fun. It's just
It
so
is.
darn fun.
It is, and I loved that piece of like, are there ways to find, that bring this interest in? I mean, from little things like finding a plushie of a game that maybe is not easy to find, and we have to go to figure out Japan, like, shipping a game, a plushie from a game that they love. Or, oh, it's this aspect that they really enjoy, the video game symphony stuff. Like that was really fun, because it's something that they enjoyed, this music piece, and it was music they knew and that they had enjoyed. So, those are things that they may not know exist in those moments. And again, no attachment to it, but just saying, hey, I saw this and it kind of reminded me of this thing you love. And they may say yes or no. We don't have to have attachment to that, but it's fun to just think of how can we boost somebody up along their journey? How can we add things to it that make it fun? And something you said, Erica, that I wanted to pull out too is how do I even say this? It's that piece of when we're doing something that we're really interested in, that's really important to us, we will actually do that kind of harder pushing through learning something that's maybe trickier or that we're struggling with a little bit more, but it'll have a very different flavor than if somebody's forcing us to do something that isn't clicking with us, right? Because then it just feels arbitrary. Why am I having to do this? It makes no sense. But if it's like, oh, I really want to understand how to put these pieces together to make this thing that's so important to me that I want to take to this Comic-Con or this place or this thing, so different. And so I think watch, because sometimes we'll hear feedback from parents, but they get so frustrated or they get this. And I'm like, right, they're working through those pieces. How cool is it for them to figure out like how to handle the frustration of that and practice that and try to move through it and see all those opportunities. Like we always want the kids to stick with things, but we don't want them to stick with it if it's something we're not judging as okay to stick with. And so letting go of all that and just celebrating and looking at your child, and again, partner, anybody in front of you, everybody really feels great when they're seen and heard around these things that they love. So yeah, I hope people can feel the energy of it because I think it just really, it's fun.
It's so fun. And okay, so this part is less fun, but it came to mind, which is
Yeah.
let's not take over their interests.
Ooh, yeah.
Because I mean, that could happen, especially if we get very excited about celebrating their interests. We may think we know the part that they
Right.
like the best, and we get really excited to push them down that path because it's so great and fun. Um, but then maybe that's not what they actually want to do, or maybe we're pushing them faster than they would have gone on their own. And so I think there's nuance to this supporting them in
Yes.
their interests, and I have definitely swung too far to that side sometimes with my excitement. And so it's all about being attuned to what they're showing
Yeah.
us. And so I want to meet their energy. I don't want to drive them forward
Yeah.
with what I think about their interests. And then I was also thinking about, just financially supporting their interests. Sometimes that could come up as a bit of a rub
Yeah.
if it's something that we're not seeing as valuable. And so again, I think it would be just realizing there's value in this for them and making the decision to support an interest, even if it doesn't quite make sense to us, can really pay off in the long run. And so seeing it more as like investing in them and their own development along their path rather than, oh, I'm just, such a fan of whatever horror video games. And so I really want to buy all of them, which I don't really want to. But kind of separating my own taste and my own opinions about things from the things that they're really loving.
Yeah, that is a big part of it. And it's I find that when we are like diving into that, that's such an important piece to separate out like our feelings from it. Because, and you mentioned also like, and not jumping ahead, like, so when we're really excited about it and we jump in and energetically just kind of take over because we're excited. We share, not only are we happy that they're interested in something, we literally share this interest and like this was our path and we want to help them go through that. But that's what I love about like the metaphor of the web of learning is like we're trying to get them to jump. We're trying to connect, like we're trying to put our web on top of their web, for lack of a better word. And so, like, on their journey, that might be 4 or 5
Right.
points out. And where for us, that maybe was just 1 or 2, or in our excitement, maybe 3, because we just want them to know where we're going. Isn't that awesome? And yeah, that we can often kind of stifle the interest because we're not letting them make their connections the way it makes the most sense to them. So, we are kind of can be stepping on their learning, and maybe that can be a lens at first that helps most to bring your energy to it because in celebrating their interests, you're celebrating their learning, right?
Yeah.
And so then, yes, on the opposite side, knowing that we can also stop their learning when we start putting it through a filter of what we kind of agree with, don't agree with, or like, oh, this is gonna cost a little bit, or will take up more time, which I don't feel comfortable with, and then I'll just kind of rationalize it or justify it rather than leaning in, getting open and curious, bringing my context piece. Maybe I don't have a lot of time right now or money or whatever it is. But instead of kind of putting the kibosh on it or saying not right now, we can lean in because maybe even just talking about it and celebrating the idea of it can help get keep the energy moving forward on it and help them also kind of they'll also be picking up the context of everything, like it's a window to the world, like just navigating through something that we want to
Yeah.
do. We learn so much doing that as well, don't we?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. But yeah, that making it about us, that's a really important one because I get excited. but it doesn't need to be about me. If I want to pursue it, I can do that separately. It really is, like you said, kind of matching their energy, really letting them take the lead because, like you said, Pam, they're putting pieces together in a way that makes sense for their brain, not necessarily a way that makes sense for my brain. And so I can be excited about watching that process. Like that's how I could kind of tone that down a little bit is like, ooh, I'm curious to see where they'll go with this or what that will be. And that would allow me to have my excitement, but not like start lawn mowing their way through so that they're like, wait a minute, what's happening here? And oh gosh, there was one other thought that you were saying. Um, it was about that going forward. I lost it, so it may come to me. But anyway, I know I just I think this is a great one, and I think I think it was the piece of we can celebrate. Oh, it was watching for. So this is a little bit on the darker side too, but like watching for maybe we're not criticizing an interest, but are we celebrating in line with what we want them to do, right? And so just watching for that, I think that is important because, oh, this interest, this we can get behind because everybody's going to love the pictures from this or the idea of what this is. This is conventional or accepted. Watching for are we really celebrating all those moments? Are we looking to them and what is actually bubbling up for them and being excited, whether it looks like a photo op or not? And I think that can just be an important thing to kind of check in ourselves because it's nice when they have a hobby that then the grandparents will like or the things that, whatever. I get that. And I want to make sure they're feeling seen about all the pieces that are interesting them.
Well, thank you so much to everyone for joining us. We hope you enjoyed our conversation about celebrating interests and that maybe you have like some ideas, a little spark of getting a little curious about what your kids are into and just the fun. We promise the fun of just the creatively trying to like come up with what else might be interesting for them. And we also hope you consider joining us in the Living Joyfully Network to dive into these kinds of ideas and conversations with other kind and thoughtful unschooling parents. It will add a depth and richness to your journey that I really do feel you'll deeply appreciate. And we are excited to welcome you. To learn more and join us, just follow the link in the show notes or go to livingjoyfullyshop.com and click on the community tab in the menu. We also invite you to check out our Substack when school isn't working. It's also a great resource to share with friends who are feeling stuck and might just be open to considering these ideas. We wish everyone a lovely day. Thanks so much, you guys.
Okay, take care.
Bye.